That's weird because I hear more like wood hitting skin than I do an axe in the skull.
Wow.
On the children.
I gotta say, Darcy, that ranks right up there. I'm getting shivers right up my spine.
Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the slow burn storytelling podcast where our host, Nicola, challenges her psychic friend Darcy to communicate with the dead and unravel historical ghost stories, unsolved true crime mysteries, and all things paranormal. If you want to be spooked, amazed, and entertained, stick around for an astonishing, deep dive convo with the spirits on the other side. Radio Sydney presents Episode 17, The Villisca Axe Murders.
So, hello, Darcy. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Nicola?
I'm hoping I'm going to say I'm peachy, so I think that's pretty close to fantastic. Thanks. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this episode, Darcy, this issue that we're dealing with today. We're slipping back 108 years on Seeing Dead People today, and we're heading into the heartland of the United States, to the small town of Villisca in southwestern Iowa. Our goal is to explore what happened inside a traditional two-story house during the witching hours between Sunday, June the 9th, and Monday, June the 10th, in the year of our Lord, 1912. Now, before I say anything else, I should ask you, Darcy, are you now able to download the photographs?
Yes, I did just check them as you were doing the intro.
Perfect. Okay. So before I venture further, Darcy, I'm going to ask you to have a good look at our modest white timber house with its welcoming porch. You'll see in photo number 1 the home of Joe and Sarah Moore and their 4 children. The house was unlocked on the night of June the 9th, which was very common in that small, friendly, and I have to say, formally safe town. So have a look at photo number 1, Darcy, and tell us if you have anything to say about the Moore house.
Okay. First of all, I feel like I've seen this house before somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Not sure where. Maybe it's just a replica of it. Interesting enough, as you were doing the intro, I had my eyes closed, and the first person I thought of was my granny, who was born June 6th. And then you said June 9th, and I thought, okay, there's a connection. And then I thought of her parents, who are Joe and Sarah.
Get out of here.
Nope. Not Miller, but definitely Joe and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
I thought, okay, so here's my connection. So I'm relying on my grandma on this one.
Okay.
But my first instinct is, on the outside it looks dated. It definitely looks older. The time frame probably, as you said, in the early 1898, 1889, 1890, somewhere in there.
Well, this event actually happens in 1912, but when the house was built, could have very well been, late 1900s, early 19th century or 20th century.
I guess it would be 1912, all right. And as much as I want to walk up the porch and open the door, I'm sort of a little hesitant. Okay?
Yep.
I sort of get that chill as though something happened here that maybe none of us really want to be privy to.
Yeah.
But what I do feel is that there's 3 children upstairs and the husband and wife are downstairs, but I think I'm missing a child somewhere.
Okay, well, there's a lot going on in this house, Darcy. I'm going to make it tough for you. I'm going to try and keep as much from you as I can. I'm going to let you, I hope, to tell us more about the terrible, evil deeds that occurred here. But I first want to at least say that we are investigating today one of the most horrific crimes I've ever heard of, and probably the worst in Iowa's history. Now, I won't be showing you any disturbing photographs, so you and our listeners may breathe easy on that score. But nonetheless, just hearing about this monstrous event might shake you. So today we're going to tour this seemingly normal home, seeing photographs of most of the rooms, and I'm going to ask for your impressions, Darcy, before revealing any facts. Once we've been through this house of horrors, I'll add a bit about the aftermath. So we'll begin by walking in the footsteps of Ross Moore. Ross is the brother of the homeowner I previously mentioned, Josiah, a.k.a. Joe Moore. Ross was called about 7:45 on the morning of June the 10th by a neighbor who was concerned that the house, with its 6 regular occupants plus 2 neighborhood children on a sleepover, appeared strangely, worryingly empty, and the door was now locked. So, Darcy, let's mount the 4 front steps with Ross, cross the porch, unlock the door, and step into the front parlor of number 508 East 2nd Street, Villisca, Iowa. Have a look at photo number 2 and tell us what you see and feel in the parlor.
All right. When I first walk in, it looks like it would be a lovely home.
Mm-hmm.
The chair makes me feel like someone should be in it, like what I would think would be considered a sofa.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me feel someone should be sitting in it, but there's no one there.
Oh, okay.
A very religious house, just by the images that are around the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something significant about it, but I think I'm going to have to walk through a little bit more so I can pick up on other items that are going on in here.
Sure.
Because I walk in, okay, so obviously someone died here. That's the first thing I'm going to say. But the other portion of it is it's not just one person who died, but I'm not sure they were all, like, in the living room when they died. Okay, if that's what we would call the front room.
Right.
Okay. And it definitely, for me, a lot of violence. Okay.
Okay.
So, would there be 2 young children in this room that would have been found, or a man in this room found?
Not in this room, actually, Darcy. Nobody was found in this room, but you'll find more information that something happened nearby.
Okay.
I'll put you onto another photo of this room just to see if that helps as we start walking through. And I can imagine, you don't necessarily have a lot of stuff happening in the first couple of photographs. But here's a little bit of a close-up of the piano. And as you said, it is a religious house because if you zoom in, you'll see it's the Last Supper by Da Vinci that's over the piano table, top of the piano. But I wasn't sure if that photograph might provide you a glimpse of anybody or anything.
Well, it makes me feel that whoever was in this room, whatever crime he committed, he felt he was doing it in the act of God.
Oh, okay. So you're picking up the actual perpetrator, because I'm not going to say what they did yet. The perpetrator, you're picking up the perpetrator in this room?
Yes.
A sense of what this person felt while they were perpetrating?
Well, they were killing.
Okay.
And yes. But see, I don't know if it's his energy, and it's a guy. I don't know if it's his energy, and are we talking 2 people?
I don't know. I'm not going to tell you.
I think it's more than one person. Because I feel like I need help to control.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Well, as we go through the storyline, that I think you'll find that's kind of an interesting comment, and whether it pans out or not, we'll find out.
Okay.
All right. So let's accompany Ross as he heads into the Moore, now the family kitchen of the Moore family. They're having a look at, please, Darcy, photos 4 and 5. And tell us what you see in those photos.
Well, 4 and 5. 4 is an old cook stove. It's the kitchen. The curtains. There's an energy to the left of the curtain, or to the left of the cook stove.
Okay.
Feels like a female.
Okay.
And then another shot of the kitchen shows the dining table. I guess that's a washer.
Could be.
And the telephone. Yeah, that's the idea of it's either a washer or it's a butter maker, one or the other.
Yeah, in the corner.
It should be a butter maker.
Yeah, some kind of churning implement.
Do you know if the person stopped to have a bite to eat when they were done?
Well, Darcy, I would say you've kind of grabbed a little inkling of truth here, so we'll save that for later, but well done. Okay. Strike one, put one up for you now. So we'll move to the next photograph. So we're going to go to what's, I'll just, before I go, sorry, I want you to note, you did already highlight it, but I want you to note that all the curtains on all the windows are pulled shut. Okay? Yep. That has meaning, and we'll get to that a little bit later. It's peculiar, that's for sure. So now Ross Moore moves across to the blue guest room with its small quilt-covered white frame bed shown in photograph number 6. Can you tell us what Ross Moore saw that shocked him so deeply that he fled outside for help, moaning, "Something terrible has happened"?
It would be 2 girls dead.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I don't believe they, even though you call it a guest room, it still could be literally a family room. But I'm sort of thinking that there were more than I thought 3, possibly 4. So there's more children in this house that didn't belong to the family.
Okay, talk a little bit more about the kids.
The kids, well, they're sisters, by the feels of it.
Okay.
And I would say maybe neighbors, or they could be cousins, one or the other. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
And I would say that, okay, so because of the way they're all chopped up, I would say either a really big axe or a really large cleaver.
Oh my God. So you are actually telling us that there were 2 girls in this bedroom that aren't members of the Moore family, but guests of some sort, and that they are dead in the beds, having been chopped up by something like an axe.
Well, yeah, because there's a handle sticking out of the bed. So...
Where is the handle sticking out of the bed?
They're towards the middle of the bed where that red dot is.
You actually see a handle of an axe sticking out of there?
Yeah.
Wow, I can say to my listeners, when they look at this photograph, I see a quilt with a red patch, exactly where you described it, and there ain't no handle there. Wow. Okay, that's remarkable, Darcy, because I'm going to tell you, let's take a deep breath, and we're going to now pluck up our courage and re-enter the home. Now, Ross has run out for help, right? He's seen what you've just described, or you think he's just seen that. Now we're going to come into the footsteps of the local peace officer named Marshal Hank Horton, and he goes through the entire house. Poor fellow. He'll never forget what he saw, and we'll probably not forget much of what we hear about today. So I'm going to show you another photo of this main floor guest bedroom, and it shows the closet. Photo number 7. Do you get any more sense from this photo before we move on?
It's funny, either these girls are really heavy sleepers, or they really didn't hear anything.
And when you say they didn't hear anything, what exactly do you mean?
Well, because my impression would be I'd start with the person who could inflict more pain on me, which would be father or mother.
Okay.
And then I'd work on the lower numbers. And when I'm saying that, I'm going age-wise.
Okay.
And the ones who couldn't, at that time, girls weren't given that significant ability to understand they were powerful.
Right.
So I would say, oh, there she is. It is a little girl. Sorry, she's in a little frilly white nightie with little flowers all over it. She's standing at the head of the bed, and I would say they probably slept through it until it happened to them.
Okay, so you're saying something incredibly interesting here. They slept through it until it happened to them. What did they sleep through?
Murder, obvious. For me, obviously. That the rest of the family was already dead, their last. I don't think they were expected.
Wow. How on earth do you come to that, Darcy?
The little girl at the head of the bed, her and her sister are standing there.
But how do you know that they died after somebody else died?
Oh, good question. It's just a feeling I have.
Wow.
It's this weird feeling that by the time I get down here, I'm a little weary, but I still have to go through this. In this, with these two girls, I feel more regret than I do with anything else.
And when you're using the pronoun or the word you're saying, you're talking now as if you were the killer.
Yes.
Good God. Okay, you're really on fire today, Darcy, because I'm going to let slip what some of Hank, the marshal, saw and could never forget. I'd like you to meet two young sisters named Ina and Lena Stillinger, who were on a sleepover. They weren't relatives of the Moore family, as you said. So have a look at photo number 8. It's a blurry black and white headshot of the gals, but you've probably already seen them.
Yeah. They're the two girls standing at the head, but it's funny because when they went to bed, their hair was in some sort of little bonnet, and their nightie was the high neck nightie.
Oh, yeah.
With the little dots or flowers or something on them. I don't know if they would have lived long anyways, but these are definitely the two girls in that room.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, Hank found these two visiting sisters, Ina, who was only 8 years of age, her older sister Lena, who was 12, in the guest bedroom, bloodied and dead, with their heads covered by bedclothes. Lena, the older gal, appears to possibly have suffered a partial sexual assault, as her nightgown was shoved up, exposing her small body. It seems she fought back because her knee and arm were damaged and bleeding. In shock, and despite being terrified, Marshal Hank forced his legs up the staircase. So we'll mount those well-worn stairs with him, Darcy, and if you would please tell us what you experience in photo number 9, which is shows us the dogleg entrance to the Moore staircase, and photo number 10, which shows us the flight of steps themselves.
Okay, as I'm going up, I feel that heaviness, that dread of what I can see or what I'm going to see. I can smell it before I get really to the very top of the stairs.
Okay.
It's funny because it's almost like I can see the handprints showing up on the wall as I go down. Like when I look down the stairs, how no one knocked themselves out going down those stairs in a hurry like they did. I'm surprised.
Okay, so are you now speaking for Hank, the marshal?
Yeah. And anyone else who went up there and came down in a hurry. It's like the smell was overwhelming. The scene was overwhelming for them.
Wow. Okay, well, you're pretty well blown my whole storyline, but we'll keep on going because you're nailing it tremendously well today, Darcy.
Here's one thing. Whoever this killer is, or killers, because I feel like they are familiar with the people and familiar with the house. Okay, so there's either they've scouted them out, they worked for them, something to that effect. But I can hear them whistle.
You can hear the killer or killers whistle?
Yeah, like one of them, and it's like the Red River Valley.
You're hearing Red River Valley?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That I know nothing about. That's astonishing.
The other one I can hear is When We Gather at the River. Now, that's a biblical one.
Yep.
That's the other tune I can hear. I can't hear the words. It's the whistle.
Okay, so you're fairly knowledgeable about music, though, because you're able to come up with a title of a whistle song.
I was raised in the Anglican Church.
And it's doing you proud right at this moment.
I'm certain I am.
Okay, well, let's move to photo number 11, which takes us to the top of the stairs, the upper landing. So just as we pause there, Darcy, do you have anything else to tell us before we move on?
Well, it just feels like there's a lot of blood, and I would like to think there's a body here.
When you say here?
Like at the top, like very close to the landing.
Okay.
Okay. I just don't know if it's a boy or a girl's body.
Okay. Now we have a sense, and you've given us a lot more than a sense of the horrifying events that have happened here, but we're going to continue to be strong and push ourselves along with our Marshal Hank to venture a little further into this house. So we're going to move into the children's bedroom, Darcy, in images 12, 13, and 14. It's their bedroom. There's a couple of beds. Before I say anything else, can you describe these rooms to us and what you're seeing in them?
Okay, in 12, picture 12, there's a daybed and a crib.
Right.
In picture 13, there's almost looks like the same daybed but with a different quilt.
Yep, I think it is.
Okay. And picture 14 is another daybed or like a bed.
Yep.
Okay. So can I ask, was the youngest a boy?
Yes.
And he's the one in the crib, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So interesting. They didn't. That's weird because I hear more like wood hitting skin than I do an axe in the skull.
Wow.
On the children.
That's, I gotta say, Darcy, that ranks right up there. I'm getting shivers right up my spine. That ranks right up where with your comment about were these the last two men to be hanged in Canada? Like, that's just astoundingly insightful. I'll tell you a little bit more about it later, but that really, you've just brought something I can't imagine you could ever have thought of without connecting with the individuals. That's really amazing.
And just so you know, too, there are more than two people here.
When you say two people, are we talking killers?
Yeah. It's not a single or just a double killing. I don't know, the third guy is the lookout to make sure no one's coming up the lane, but I feel an essence outside, but when I'm standing here, there's two people.
Okay.
So then there should be the girl in the bed with the crib, a girl in the colorful blanket room, and then the last one I think is a boy again.
Okay, so I'm going to, in a minute, show you an image of the little children's faces, but I'm going to say you're wrong in one instance. I want to introduce you to photo number 15, which isn't the greatest photo, I admit. It's sort of a pen and ink sketch of the children, and it's also on a bit of an angle, so it's harder to see. But we have here Herman, who is the eldest. He is age 11. We have a girl, Catherine. She is age 10. We have a boy named Boyd, and he is age 7. And then the youngest is Paul, and he was only 5. So there are 3 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah, the one boy I would be questioning about now. But, all right, I'm good with that.
Okay.
But one of these, the beds are like, I'm hoping that they put down new mattresses, new blankets, everything. Because, oh my God, if they kept all that, that would be horrific. Like each bed is like a mini massacre has happened.
Oh, wow.
Like the overkill is not as bad as probably Dad and Mom, but the overkill here is still bad. And again, can I ask that their faces were covered?
Yes, they were.
That's remorse on that.
Okay, well, that was a question I had for you a little bit later, but that's what I was wondering. We have a killer, or killers, as you've said, that have done this, that have covered faces, and I wondered what their reasoning was. Are they ashamed of what they've done?
They don't want to be seen.
Right.
And the interesting part, because he didn't cover their face before he killed them, he covered their face after he killed them.
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot of psychology there.
Yeah, and to me, if he had covered their face before he killed them, he didn't want them to recognize them. When he covered their face after, it was more about he didn't want their souls to see where he was going.
Yeah, so that is remorse and shame, I would think, eh?
Yeah, it is.
That's exactly what they found, is sadly all 4 of these lovely little children, bloodied and dead, in their beds, a scene of absolute carnage, and we'll get into more details of the scene a little bit later, but absolute carnage, as you said, very similar to the attacks on the girls downstairs. So, frenzied, violent, bloodied, and heads covered. So somehow this amazing Marshal Hank found the metal to enter the last bedroom. I'll let you have a look at photos 16 and 17, Darcy. And you'll see, I believe, in 16, like you had mentioned, I believe 16 were coming up the stairs almost straight into the master bedroom, it seems to me, from the look of it. And you said there was a body there. So have a look at the master bedroom of the Moore family and tell us what happened there.
Okay, so the first one, like you said, it looks like you can see right into the room. The second one, well, both of these people were... The axe portion was used on both of them, but right, okay, if I'm looking at the bed, it would be my left-hand side.
Okay.
At the bed, my left. Must have been where the husband slept, because it seems to be the one concaved in the most, so he was beaten the worst.
Okay.
And one of them has almost like a severed neck.
A severed neck?
Yeah, like almost as though not only did they crush the skull, but I don't know if they cut the neck as well. Like it's like trying to get rid of the voice.
Are you actually seeing this image, Darcy?
Yeah.
Gross. So you're seeing pulverized faces, bloodied hair, bloodied skin, things torn apart, eyes missing. Is that what you're seeing?
Basically, and there's some bruising and bleeding around the body as well.
Good God.
The husband got it the worst.
Okay, and who got it first between the husband and the wife?
The husband, he was closest to the edge of the bed.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm telling you, this photo 16 and 17 show us the master bedroom occupied by Joe and Sarah Moore. Joe was 43. An owner of a local hardware store, and Sarah was 39. She took care of their 4 children and participated in the local church's activities. They were a very well-liked family throughout their little town of only about 2,500 people in Villisca, Iowa. But obviously not everybody liked them. Something was wrong there. Marshal Hank found them dead, as you described, Darcy, in a scene right out of Friday the 13th. And again, as you said, Darcy, Joe appeared to have been the main target because his face was destroyed beyond belief. And again, as you said, Darcy, of all the 8 victims, only Joe had been struck by the axe blade. Now, you said you thought Sarah had as well, but only Joe was struck by the axe blade. The rest of them were beaten by the handle. And you knew that.
Yeah, because there was too much blood on the killer's hands when he went and washed them off in the kitchen later. And the only way that could have happened is when he mingled his hand in their blood, or he held the head of the axe.
That's brilliant. And he held the head of the axe after he killed Joe. Using the axe part. So that would be it bloodied up already. And then he switched and flipped the axe, you're saying, and held the blade in his hands.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Wow. And their faces were covered with bedclothes. So again, there's that sense of remorse, even though the main target obviously was Joe. He had the worst experience, I guess you can call it. But even so, they didn't want to see Joe after he was dead.
Yeah.
That's
That would say to me, that would shout, this is a familiar killer.
yeah, I was just going to say, that's so personal, don't you think?
Yeah. Yet when I look at this, it feels as though maybe the person, I wonder if it, just a minute. So if I have two killers, maybe it's the one that didn't do the killing that put it over their face. I keep feeling two people, two entities. So maybe one did the killing and the other one did the covering up.
Could be, could very well be. So somehow, all these 8 people were murdered in their sleep, except for Lena. It seems Lena, maybe the last one to be killed. She had woken because she had slightly defensive wounds. Others didn't have.
Well, what a horrible way for a whole family and visitors to die in.
Isn't it horrendous? Well, I'm going to let you actually finally meet the parents and a couple of the kids. If you turn to photo number 18, you'll see a really nice old-fashioned black and white oval shot of Joe and Sarah and 2 of their children.
Yeah, it is. They're very striking people.
They are, aren't they? They have lovely eyes, very piercing.
And I can see why Sarah even has that essence around her that would say God-fearing woman.
Yep.
I definitely can say that he's the target, the rest are residue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just curiosity, because the killers covered the faces, if there were any mirrors in any of the rooms, did they cover the mirrors?
Ah, good question, Darcy. We will talk about that. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the axe, and then we'll talk about that. So I want you to move to image number 20. So to add to sort of the horrificness of this event, there's the axe in number 20. It was Joe's own axe taken from the barn. It was found right there, partially cleaned, leaning up against the wall of the guest bedroom, and the dear little Sillinger girls' bodies were feet away. So look at 20, that photograph, Darcy, and do you get any sense from that axe?
Okay, the axe is such... The axe says it's innocent, that it was only party to it because it was forced. I know this sounds really crazy, but that's exactly what I'm hearing. And I want to say that somehow this axe represents another incident where the axe may have been used.
So you think, for number one, firstly, you're talking on behalf of an inanimate object for the very first time.
Yes, I am. The axe is innocent.
The axe is innocent. And you now say not only is the axe innocent, but only used, it was just used by someone horrible. It wasn't its fault. You're now saying that the axe might have been part of some difficult issue previously.
Yeah, like accidentally killing a dog.
Oh, okay.
It was used for... The axe is the reason... How do I say this? The axe represents why it was used, okay? Because it was used for something else. It's almost like the person is saying to Joe, okay, you did this, you used the axe to kill, say, my prize chicken.
Right.
And now I'm going to use the axe on you to kill your prize.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the axe, that axe was deliberately chosen. Thank
you. That's what I was trying to say.
Right, because his thought in the sort of lore of the storyline is that the killer or killers, found the axe in the barn. Not necessarily a surprise to find an axe in those days in a barn, in that kind of era. But you're saying this axe was deliberately chosen because it was used for something else, and this is kind of a revenge.
That's what it feels like. This isn't just about a serial killer, and I'm certain that, well, after one, he is a serial killer. This is definitely some form of revenge, but the really weird part is part of me wants to say it's not the first time this has been perpetrated on a family.
Okay. All right, interesting. To be polite, to say the investigation was poorly conducted is really, a nice way of saying it was a complete and utter disaster. Over 100 people trampled through the Moore house on the day the victims' 8 bodies were discovered, and maybe you've seen a few of them stumbling back down the stairs. So much of the forensic evidence, if there was any that they could find, that they recognized, was missed or totally destroyed. Now, from your perspective, Darcy, there's an official version of how this happened. I want to know what you think is the version, how it happened. Literally, step by step.
I think that the killers, and I am using 2, laid in wait, and my impression is the house is too old and too rough to be able to wait outside and open the door and not hear it open, so they've got to be inside. All right?
Okay.
I think they waited until everyone settled for the night. So let's say they came home after church, after the children's church, had a little cuppa, everyone said their prayers, went to bed, because morning comes early then. And once everyone was settled, I'd say they probably waited 45 minutes. Okay, 45 minutes. And they proceeded to start with Joe. And interesting, Joe was a little asleep, so something startled him, but by then it's too late. Then the wife, then into the bedroom with the 2 children, and then the last 2, and then down the stairs.
To the last 2 girls?
And the last 2 girls. And then literally I did hear water running, so I know they cleaned up. You've already confirmed that by saying they partially cleaned up the axe.
Yep.
The other part is I sort of feel like they had a meal.
Yeah, I tell you, Dorothy, you got this story down pat. It's astounding.
Okay. But the other thing, too, is because, and I don't know if this is just something I learned through doing criminology, but because they covered the faces, I would say if someone was religious enough, they would have covered the mirrors.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what the supposedly official version is, and we'll get to that. So, days later, the town coroner presumes only one killer, all right, based on the evidence, reconstructed what's thought to have occurred sometime in the early hours of June the 10th. Now, you mentioned that they came home from church. How did you know they'd gone to church?
I thought you told me that.
I might have, but I might not have.
Okay.
I was trying to hold things back, so I don't think I told you that. I might have. Okay. The theory is the murderer, at that time, entered the house, the unlocked house. Okay, so the family's gone to bed, enters the unlocked house, slips up past the guest bedroom where the young girls are sleeping, the visitors. They presumed it was a male perpetrator, had Joe's axe from the barn in one hand and a carefully dimmed oil lamp in the other, which was found later in the house. He ignored the 4 children asleep in the first bedroom and entered the master, striking, as you said, Joe first and then Sarah. Neither appears to have been woken before they were struck. Then it's believed the murderer went quietly to the next door bedroom where the 4 children were sleeping, struck each dead with a staggering blow. So imagine these poor kids. Herman, not yet a teen, his only sister, Catherine, just 10, their younger brothers, Boyd and Paul, only 7 and 5. All 4 of them innocent, all 4 with their lives stretching ahead, and all 4 ruthlessly murdered without cause. Now our deranged madmen headed back downstairs to the guest bedroom and killed young Ina and Lena, aged 8 and 12, as I mentioned. It appears that Lena might have woken just before she died. Again, innocent children, and they weren't even members of the Moore clan, but Catherine's friends on a sleepover, who lost their future in a single, brutal whack from an axe handle wielded by an unknown madman. So, as if these crimes weren't horrendous enough, the murderer's next acts were almost indescribably vicious, and you talked about the fact that it is a massacre. In a shocking display of overkill, and you used the term overkill, the murderer returned to each victim, walloped their heads into pulp, and as previously mentioned, Joe's face and head took the worst beating of all. In fact, the ceilings of both the master's and the children's bedrooms were scarred by gouges, apparently from the swinging up of the axe. Such ferocity of this act is unbelievable. So the idea that they were quickly killed first and then the murderer returned to pulverize them came from both forensic evidence and one strange clue. A shoe in the master bedroom was found, tipped on its side, spilling with blood. The theory was the shoe filled with blood during the first assault and then was knocked over during the final frenzied blows. Now, there were other bizarre elements about the murderer and the murderer which came to light as the investigation continued and they explored the extensive crime scene. Now, you've already mentioned at least 3 of them. Firstly, Darcy, look at image number 21 and tell us, you are already right here, but tell us what you see in this little bureau. What is striking?
The mirror's covered.
Exactly. The mirror's covered. Look in photo number 22 of the children's bedroom.
Yep, the mirror's covered again.
Not only were their victims' faces covered, the mirrors were covered. The windows were covered. What's going on here?
Well, I could see the windows and the fact that you don't want anyone to see in.
Right.
Okay, so maybe he thought the mirrors could be Bloody Mary afterwards.
What do you mean?
You know, I'm not going to, where if you say Bloody Mary 3 times, then that image comes into mirror. Maybe he was afraid the mirror was going to capture his soul as he did it.
Okay, you're going to have to explain the Bloody Mary trick to me because I've never heard that.
Oh, it's a little kid thing if you want to scare the crap out of yourself, but don't do it. You look in a mirror and you say Bloody Mary 3 times, and supposedly she shows up.
Oh.
And it's a way to scare the crap out of yourself, but why press fate and find out whether it's true or not? And so maybe he was afraid that his soul was being captured because literally that is what a lot of people believe, is the mirror captures our soul or it captures our vanity, and in his place it would capture his evilness.
Okay, I like that explanation.
So that to me would be one. He hid the faces out of remorse. Right. And the mirrors are so that he can't see the ugliness of himself by his reflection.
So he actually knows he's doing wrong.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, well there's other elements that you nailed earlier. You talked about food, and in fact, really peculiarly, they found a lump of uncooked bacon wrapped in a cloth, carefully placed near the axe, along with a partial bit of a keychain that belonged to none of the victims. They also found a dish of food uneaten in the kitchen. You mentioned hearing water. There was a bowl of water found, pink with blood, discovered on the kitchen table, so obviously the killer or killers washed hands. But I think what's really remarkable, beyond the fact that the level of frenzied attack is so horrific, is that this deranged individual or individuals remained for some considerable time in the homemade house of horrors before quietly leaving, because they had to go around and do all this stuff, all this excessive other stuff.
You know, I'd like to take you back to that offering of the bacon, the key,
Yep.
and food.
Yeah.
They never equated this to a sacrificial ritual.
Not in anything that I've read.
Really?
Really.
Because that would, at that time, would have fit right in there.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Well, the offerings, there's the key. The key, it opens the doors, sort of opens the universal connection.
Okay.
The offering of bacon and the offering of the bowl of vegetables and stuff you said that were on the table uneaten. To me, this is an offering of some sort.
Oh, when you explain it like that, it has sense, but I did not read a thing. No one has, as far as I know, and I'm not the expert on this story, obviously, but that connection to an offering has not been revealed. When you say an offering, who are they offering to, Darcy?
Well, it all depends. They could have been offering to, if anyone was into black magic, they could have been offering something towards the development of black magic, or it could have just been a freak that they were going to eat and change their mind. But no, it's the fact that if you think of the axe being placed there slightly clean with the bacon and key, why would you leave it behind?
I don't know. Obviously to be found.
Yeah, true. But still, I'm leaning a little here to a sacrificial offering.
Well, I like that because it sort of works with the deranged goings on here.
Would definitely go with a psychopath.
Yeah. Well, and another element that you have taken up is the second sort of school of thought as to how this murder happened. Some believe that the murderer or murderers snuck in when the family had gone to church and went up to the attic, hid up there until the family came back, had their little snack, as you said their prayers, and went to bed. So they could have been up there a while. I'm not quite sure how long. But have a look at the next couple of photos, 23 and 24. They're photos of the attic. They're not the greatest shots, but that's all we can find. 2 cigarette butts were found, Darcy, which is suggestive possibly of 2 criminals, possibly of one criminal being there for a longer period of time. I'm curious if you catch anything.
Well, I would have said that they definitely made themselves a little bit at home here. They probably stayed close to the door so they wouldn't make a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm. So you're continuing with the theory that there was more than one and that they were there in advance of the family coming home?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you still continuing that there were more than one?
2. I hear 2.
Okay. Well, obviously, Darcy, someone loathed the family or somebody in the family, and it's, as you said, it's not the children, and I doubt it would have been Sarah. So it was obviously Joe who was ground zero, and as you said, everybody else was collateral damage. But despite efforts to find the culprit or culprits, including searching the town and countryside with the help of bloodhounds, the killer's 5-hour head start proved insurmountable. So I have a couple of suspects to talk to you about, but I'm wondering, are you getting any vibes on these killers?
They're definitely... Okay, I was going to say not from the area, but I might stand corrected. There's a connection to the community to them. I'm going to say they're brothers. And I don't think they really have ever caught them. They may accuse people of it, but I don't think they've caught them.
Okay, well, as far as we know, no one has been found guilty of this crime. But I'll give you a couple of photos of the 2 suspects that were considered. The first is in photo 25. This is a self-proclaimed preacher named Lynn Kelly. He called himself Reverend Kelly. What do you think of the good Reverend? He definitely had some mental health issues.
Yeah, definitely would say he's killed people, but he didn't kill these people.
Okay, well, funnily enough, he actually confessed. Then he recanted, saying that his confession was a result of police brutality. He was actually tried twice. First time was a hung jury, and the second time he was acquitted, so he was never charged. Another possible suspect, funnily enough, was a guy named Moore, Henry Moore, no relation to the family. Have a look at 26. This guy is really a deranged-looking character. It's obviously a sort of a composite sketch that you'd see kind of nowadays on television. He is a suspected serial killer. He's been involved in a number of similarly brutal crimes. What do you think of him?
He prefers a blade over an axe, but he's not it either.
Okay.
Okay. These two men, well, the Lynn Kelly one, he's stupid enough to claim he was it, but he definitely didn't do it. I'm not saying he hasn't killed people, because I would tell you he has.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at him, he's not responsible for this murder.
Okay.
And neither is Henry. I would say one's 5'9", one's 6'2". I would say a dirty blonde, but not as dark as the second guy, Henry Moore.
Okay.
One's right-handed, one's left-handed.
Okay, well, there was some idea that the murderer could have been left-handed. That was something that was considered. But unfortunately, officially, these hideous and savage cold-blooded murders have never been resolved.
Wow.
Given the violent early snuffing out of their lives, it probably doesn't surprise you, Darcy, of the many reports of paranormal activities occurring in number 508 East 2nd Street.
I was going to go see it.
Well, the house was originally boarded up after this event, then abandoned, then it became a rental home, surprisingly enough, and again, it was like chalking up supernatural experiences all along. In 94, this two-story white clapboard was carefully restored and opened as a museum by its new owner. Now it's known as the Villisca Axe Murder House. It offers tours of the house, and if you have the guts, Darcy, overnight stays. So I might be tempted to, but only if you'd come with me.
Okay. Oh, that's a couple places now I want to go and try this out.
Absolutely. While we were talking, before we finished, you mentioned there might have been a third person. Do you still feel that?
No, I'm going to let the third person go. Maybe it was someone who was coming up the lane and realized the family was asleep and left.
Okay, so you're thinking that the Villisca axe murderers were brothers with some kind of vengeance in mind against Joe, and sadly took out the entire family and two guests in their revenge.
Yeah, but I know I used that it felt like vengeance, but it's really weird because it was for such a small slight.
Really? That the axe was used somehow against them or something towards them that they felt slighted by.
Yep. And it could be maybe they couldn't buy an axe. I don't know. All I know is when I look at the violence and when I look at why it started, it's like, really? You couldn't have talked it out.
Well, remember, if Joe was the owner of a hardware store.
Okay, so maybe it had something to do with something someone wanted to buy.
Yeah. They could have
got turned down for credit because their credit was no good.
Right. They could have had an altercation at the hardware store and then decided to take it out on Joe and his entire family.
Yeah.
God.
What a waste.
What a terrible thing. I know. I mean, talk about horrendous, but the level of ferocity it's just beyond belief.
It is.
Especially, as you say, if it were for a slight. These were at least one individual anyway. It seems to me the individual you speak about as a 17-year-old didn't participate in the violence, just in the sort of cover-up, literally. Whereas the other one must have been an incredibly deranged individual.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Darcy, that was amazing. Thank you. You really beat this one to the pulp, if I can use that. You were able to nail so much information that I hadn't even come to give you. I'm so impressed. Well done today.
Well, thank you. And thank you for finding the stories.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I had never heard of it. Every time we speak, I become more and more enamored with your talents and I'm just so impressed with what you are able to divine, literally, from photographs and words. I really think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Well, you're welcome. And then on the weekend when we said we were going to do this, and you said, what am I better at looking at? And I said, houses. You definitely gave me houses.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's tricky. There are a bunch of photos of just, a room, another photo of the same room. And I think I'm trying to imagine, would you see a spirit walking across that room like you found the little girls at the end of the bed or the head of the bed? So it's for me, I'm just, of course, blind picking stuff. Sometimes I have very few photos, but this time I had a surfeit of photos. It was great.
Yeah, it was actually really good. So, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, you have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Thank you for listening to Seeing Dead People, where goosebumps are guaranteed. We would love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. Please shoot us an email to info@radiosydney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes air on our website, radiosydney.ca, on the first Saturday of every month. Episodes repeat Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., both Pacific time. All episodes are available as downloadable podcasts at our website or on our YouTube channel, Nicola Furlong Mysteries. I'm Dorian Mortis, weirdly keen on seeing dead people.